Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. We are Cinechix. I'm Jen.
And I'm Christina, and today we're going to be discussing Wonder Woman 84, which dropped on HBO Max on Christmas Day. Was directed and written, I believe, by Patty Jenkins. So what did you think about it?
I had really high hopes for this. I was really excited about it, and I mean, I love Wonder Woman as a character, and I thought I had issues with the first one, but I thought maybe they'd get this one right, and I thought this was going to be kind of like Thor Ragnarok, with like the funny and like they had like that opportunity to do, and so I was a little bit disappointed. I felt like the only time that it felt like it was really in the 80s was that like beginning Wonder Woman scene in the 80s, when she's going through the mall and the streets and like helping people. That was the only time that it felt like it was like in the 1980s. So I was a little bit disappointed. I think that it like dragged a lot for most of the movie, and then I thought the ending was good, but I felt like it was rushed, and so I just feel like there were a lot of good moments and there were good scenes that I liked, but I think as a whole it really like fell flat for me. What'd you think?
I enjoyed the movie. I do agree with you. I do think that the first and second act kind of dragged a bit. I don't think I realized it dragged until the last act was rushed through. So I feel like that's what made me realize, like, oh snap, we spent so much time on that first and second act. The third one had to kind of rush through because the movie runtime is like 2.5 hours.
2.5. Yeah, so it's like, a long movie. They had the time.
Yeah.
They could have done it. Just the way that they organized the movie and played it out, like it just, they could have done a better job.
And I feel like maybe the reason, because I don't know what they were thinking, but maybe the reason why they didn't keep up with, I guess, the 80s feel of it is because maybe they were afraid of being like Stranger Things. I feel like a lot, like things that like not rely, because Stranger Things doesn't necessarily rely on nostalgia, but like everything that's come out after Stranger Things is like, oh, they're only doing it because they're trying to rely on nostalgia. That might be kind of why. I don't know, but that could be.
That makes sense. I could see that, but also like since they went so hard in the beginning scene, well, it's not even the beginning scene, because that opening scene feels like that was a reshoot. It didn't match with anything else of the movie. If she had had flashbacks more to when she was a kid, I would understand that opening scene, but I keep even forgetting that's how it opened. I'm just, in my mind, it opened with her being Wonder Woman in the streets in the 80s. But I feel like the beginning, that scene, it had like the cheesiness of the 80s, and it was like dumb cheesy, but like fun cheesy. And then later on in the movie, there were like some cheesy moments that just were like cheesy because they were cheesy, not cheesy as in like the fun way. And I feel like the action scenes, some of the like the action in the White House was really cool and it was really good, and I'm wondering if that was just like the choreographer, because then in another scene when there's like trucks and they're trying to like do action on the trucks, it just like was weird, and like the slow motion running, I'm like there's a time when the slow motion works, and then there's a time when it just like takes you out of the movie, and like that was definitely
like speed running, especially when you're not doing like a Quicksilver type of speed running where you don't need to really see, you just need to see him get from point A to point B. It gets dodgy. It was kind of like, it doesn't need to be in slow motion. Like this is not spoiler because it's in the trailer, but when she's running through the street and like ropes up, that was fine. It wasn't in slow motion. That was fine. In slow motion, you saw she was going fast. Like, I wish that they didn't put her
those weird slow
run in slow motion, because then you can kind of tell that it's fake. But I did enjoy the fact that, and again, no spoiler, I did enjoy the fact that there were no true villainously evil people in the movie.
Yeah, like there were people that they did bad things and they had bad motives, but they weren't all evil beings.
It wasn't for an inherently evil reason. The intent was good, they just did the wrong things to get there. And I kind of like the fact that, like, you know, and it kind of goes into the message at the end that, like, that's not the true nature of people. We just kind of forget how we affect the people around us.
Right. And like I think I thought the message was good, like being like happy with what you have. But there were things that happened throughout the movie that I called the ending and what was going to happen with the weird stone thingy. Like I called that from the beginning, and I'm just like, I like that it wasn't outwardly telling you exactly what was going to happen, but it still, I knew exactly what was gonna be done before it was even done. And I thought it was interesting, the thing of like, you know, wishes don't come for free. Like there's always something that's going to be taken from you. And I thought that was really good. I did like that aspect, and like that's how people lose themselves. And it reminded like Barbara / the cheetah, who she's been in the comic books from 1940s. Like that's when she was first introduced. I just felt like the way that they did her, she reminded me of like the teenager, nerdy, shy girl in all of those 1990 / early 2000 movies, where then she gets like the glow up and then also becomes like a bitch.
Just
and I'm
changing her outfit and taking off her glasses.
Yeah, and I'm like, that was unnecessary, and like it was just so weird the way that they did it, so cliche. And I love Kristen Wiig. I love her a lot. She's hilarious. She's great. She's a great actress. Her being this character, it pulled me out of the movie a bit.
Really?
Like her being that character.
I was okay with it. I thought that she went from being a very like quirky, awkward character
kind of
to like that losing her humanity slowly.
Yeah. Which she did a good job of like losing it, and like the little moments that you see her with, like how she was helping the homeless and then she's like really rude to other people. And so I understand, like she did do a good job. I'm just saying, like as a whole, some of the moments I'm just like, now that's Kristen Wiig though. And I hate that I feel this way, because it is really shitty for the actors, because I know that so many actors hate when they get typecast, and like it is a really terrible thing to happen. But that's how I feel like that she's been typecast so much that like by them putting her into this role, it like took me out of it. Whereas if it was just some random unknown actor, I wouldn't feel the same way.
I thought this way when I saw the trailer too, that I felt like Max Lord was very Trumpian. Granted, he had redeeming qualities, like
he did, what I mean? Which Trump, I don't think.
I don't think that either. But I don't know. I didn't look it up, and I haven't read anything where they said specifically that was their point. But like, I don't.
But we
think
know
that's an accident.
We know what you're doing.
Yeah. I don't think that was an accident. I think they did that on purpose, and which kind of matches up to like the ending and the message in the end, because you have this person making you think that like this is like that we're evil people, but that's not true. That's not the true nature of people. About
the Max Lord character, I had my issues with him, and like I just think like his son had tried multiple times, right, to like get through to him and be like, I love you, Dad, like I just want to spend time with you. And I'm like, your son has been reaching out to you this whole movie, and like that change, I think, was just kind of came out of nowhere for me. One thing that I think is interesting about this movie is like Patty Jenkins wrote and directed it. She also directed the first Wonder Woman. But this time, I think some of the issues with the movie is because the studio gave her carte blanche to do whatever she wanted, because they were like, oh, I think we had like too much of a leash on you for the first Wonder Woman, so you can kind of do whatever you want for this. And I think that's why there were some parts that like felt disconnected from the rest of the movie, and why the action sometimes didn't mesh very well. And what's interesting is you had pointed out that they were supposed to release in 2019, but I looked it up. So the studio was like, hey, we need you to release it before the end of the year 2019, because, you know, we need a big movie in the box office. And Patty Jenkins was like, I don't really want to, because we released in June for Wonder Woman for the first one, so let's do that again because it worked really well for us. So that's why it was pushed to June 2020, but then Corona. And so then we couldn't do it. So then it was pushed again. But what's interesting about it is she was working on a TV show called I Am the Night.
Yes.
Which also has Chris
CBS.
Pine. So she was working on that. So it had a rushed pre-production because she was working on that at the same time. And then they had a rushed post-production because they thought they needed to have it done by November 2019. So like, I think that's also where there's a lot of disconnect in the movie, feeling like the end is a lot more rushed than the rest of the movie is. Just like when they were doing everything, it was just a rushed process altogether. This is a bit of a spoiler alert, so like if you guys haven't seen it, danger. One of my biggest issues with this movie is that like Steve comes back, right, magically because of this thing, but he doesn't. Everybody else comes back like, or their wishes like just kind of poof out of nowhere. But for some weird reason, Steve just doesn't come back in his own body. He comes back in some random dude's body, and he woke up on a futon. I'm like, you just stole this dude's life for like 48 hours is basically what you did.
I didn't understand why they chose to do it that way. Like, I feel like
the only reason they did it, the only reason they did it, I think, is because they wanted to show that Diana, like, never connected with anybody else because she was always in love with Steve, but then Steve was put in this body, and then she's like, oh, I can love another person because, you know, like, this body isn't really Steve, even though we as the audience only see Steve because she only sees Steve, which is the whole dumb thing to begin with. So then whenever she sees him at the end, she's like, oh, hey, yeah, like, I feel like maybe I could love again. That was why he was in another body, was just so that they could have that moment of her seeing somebody else and having a connection and thinking of Steve. The one thing that I had read that, like, gave some type of explanation is, like, so Steve couldn't go back into his body, you know, because his body was blown up in the plane. So his soul then just went into another body.
I don't know. I have no idea why they went that route. I know when I was watching with my mom, she at first was like, wait, they didn't get the same actor to play him? Like, I'm mad. I know. And I was like, hold on, calm down. Because she didn't see any trailers, so, like, she didn't know that he was coming back. So she thought that that guy was going to be the Steve Trevor, and he wasn't going to be Chris Pine, and she was like about to
I'm not okay with this. At first I was like, this dude looks like he's supposed to look like Chris Pine, but then I was like, they were definitely using, I feel like they were using his voice. I'm
like, was he like his stunt double or something?
Yeah, like, I was like, what's going on?
They look similar enough.
And then when they did that camera turn, I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be okay. We're just gonna see him now. Okay, so that poor guy, that's from every Hallmark movie ever. I mean, I don't think he is, but he looks like he could be that guy.
Yes, he looks like he would be. Like, the ending was the beginning of a Hallmark movie.
It was. Like I said, it had its moments that I enjoyed. It had its scenes, of course, like the scene with Diana and Steve saying goodbye. That was heart-wrenching, and I cried because it was really beautiful. But that doesn't mean that the whole movie was good just because I really enjoyed a couple scenes.
I thought it was good. I thought the movie was good enough. I think it's a step in the right direction for DC. Like, they're kind of figuring it out.
I mean, Shazam was great. Shazam figured it out.
I think it's worth a watch if you have HBO Max. I mean, it doesn't cost extra, so it wouldn't hurt to watch the movie. I enjoyed it.
So that's another thing that you just said that reminded me, you're right. It doesn't cost anything to go see because it's on HBO Max. And you want to know what? I'm actually not disappointed that I saw it on HBO Max, which is saying a lot because I love seeing movies in theaters. And this is a really big movie that I feel like should have been a wonderful movie to see in a theater. But I'm not disappointed that I didn't pay for it. And that's a disappointment.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever been disappointed about paying to see a movie. I think you just run that risk when you go to the movie theater. So I don't think I've ever walked out like, damn, I wish I'd regret paying that money. But in terms of getting people who are unsure to watch the movie, I mean, it literally costs nothing if you already have HBO Max. Like, it's not like a Mulan situation where you had to pay like $30. It's right. If you have HBO Max already, you have access to it. So, if you guys watch the movie, let us know down below what you think. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, share the video with all your friends and family.
Until next time, bye.